Welcome back. I hope we've all had an enjoyable week. So what we want to do first is we want to log into the Codecademy. So let's refresh some of the things we did last week. If you click on My Courses, you should see in there, Welcome to the Academy, which we completed last week, which was just an introduction to the website. Learning how to code, which introduced programming concepts to us. And then we got our feet wet with some Learn Python 2. So we're going to be picking up with Learn Python 2, and we're going to be continuing where we left off. So you can see in chapter 1 of Python, you should have a yellow check mark indicating that you've completed the interactive lesson. We're going to be doing today chapter 2, strings and console output. And in the afternoon, we'll have some exercises and challenge assignments to see how well we've learned strings. So let's go ahead and click on the very first unit of chapter 2, strings and console output. In the lower right corner, you can see the table of contents. So there are 16 units or sections in chapter 2. So let's go ahead and begin with the very first one. So we're starting with variables and string declarations. So let's take a closer look at that by copying that into Notepad. So we can see we have 3 variables, name, age, and food, and the values that have been assigned to those variables. Now, notice the quotation marks. If those quotation marks are removed, then the data type for the variable is no longer a string. So make sure you include those quotation marks. And a string, again, is just plain text, and it can be any text at all. It could be numbers, it could be symbols. However, when it comes to symbols, Python interprets some of these symbols, and if we want to treat them as string, we need to do an extra step. We need to handle symbols with extra caution. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first exercise here. We want to create a variable called Brian, and we want to set it to hello life. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to refresh my screen because it's not fully loaded. Okay, so we're going to put that variable down here. Now you can just type it out, or if you want to make sure you don't make any typos, you can just copy and paste that in. So I'm going to highlight the value, the string that this variable is being set to. Right-click, copy, equals, and paste it in. And if for whatever reason you find it's not accepting it, you hit the run button. So let me hit run. Okay, it's telling me there's a problem. The next isn't enabled. You can read it character by character, or you can copy and paste it, and that's a quick way to correct that error. So let's click run. Next. Okay. In the next exercise here, we're setting 3 variables. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the information that I have there. And you can see here that I am cheating, but you know, still we want to save time. That has value, so that's not really considered cheating. The important thing here is that we don't make typing mistakes. Small typos can really drive you crazy when you're programming. So I'm going to click run, and if I had made any typing mistake up there, the next button will be disabled. So let's see if I did this correctly. And yes, indeed, it accepted it. The next button is enabled. And if you look further down here, we are also printing it in the results console on the right side. So you can see Graham, John, and Teresa, which are the values of the three variables, Caesar, Pauline, and Viking. Now, here is an example of symbols that cause problems in our strings. So here we're starting a string with a quotation, single quotation. But in the middle here, you can see an apostrophe. This isn't flying. So let's copy that into Notepad so we can take a closer look at that. Okay, so we're beginning with a single quotation mark, which we use often. We'll explain the difference between double and single. The problem is being caused right here with that apostrophe. This isn't flying. So what we need to do in this exercise is we need to indicate to Python that that apostrophe is just dumb text. And the way we do that is with a backslash. So the backslash might be a little bit difficult to find on a French keyboard, so take a minute and look for that backslash. So I'm pretty sure if we put a backslash in our code here, that will fix the problem. So let's click run, and indeed it fixes the problem, and we can go to the next step. Now in section 4, we're looking at something called an index here. And index is a way to identify letters within a string. So if we take a look at the example that was provided here, let me do a copy and paste. Okay, we see the word cats. Okay, and each letter here has a number associated with it or an index value. So the index of C is 0, of A is 1, T is 2, and of S is 3. Notice that we are starting at C. So when we put a number in front, we are requesting or asking for the first we're asking for a letter that corresponds to that index value. So index value 0, we start at 0, so that is C. In the second example, it is 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3, so it's the letter N. So C equals the first letter, and N equals the fourth letter. And notice the fourth letter has an index value of 3, has an index value of 3 and not of 4, because we're starting at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, so let's take a look at the example here. So on line 13, so there's line 13, assign the fifth variable equal to the fifth letter of the string. Okay, so here's our string. So let's look at it in Notepad. And we're interested in the fifth letter. So the fifth letter is, if we start at index value 0, we see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the index value for the fifth letter is 4. So let's go ahead and try that. So we're going to copy and paste that string in. And we'll put that in quotation marks. And now we will specify an index with our square brackets. Let me get the brackets here. Brackets are another thing that could take a little while to find on the French keyboard. And I'm just going to paste that in and set it to 4. And indeed, we see the last letter, or the 5th letter, which has index value 4, is Y.